Welcome to From the South. I'm Laura Prada from our Telesur studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin checking out our headlines. In Bolivia, citizens in the city of Cochabamba have been heavily repressed. In the United States, New York governor announced that schools will remain closed for the rest of the academic year. Iraqi's parliament is demanding a time frame for the expulsion of U.S. troops from the country. We begin with our news. You stay with us. We begin with our news. In Bolivia, citizens in the city of Cochabamba have been met with heavy repression as they demanded food from the de facto government, which has imposed strict confinement measures across the country. Residents of the Caracara region in the south of Cochabamba also rejected last November's coup against former President Evo Morales 6 months after this event. The citizens of Cochabamba also condemned difficulties faced when trying to acquire supplies and called for the de facto government president resignation, but their demands were met with repression by military and police forces who used tear gas to disperse them. According to social media reports, there are several wounded.
El Parador stands on his feet. We are hard companion by this government. Tell Parador Trafalgar we invite him to come to support the companions face to face. That is what we want now. Look, we are fading. Please, companions from different districts made first. We invite you to accompany us.
In Venezuela, Vice President Delcy Rodriguez this Monday offered the daily update of the COVID-19 situation in the country.
We must inform that in the last 24 hours, 8 new cases have been detected, bringing the total number in Venezuela to 422. 3 of them are from the state of Aragua, 2 from the state of La Guaira, 1 from the state of Falcón, 1 from the state of Miranda, and 1 from the state of Nueva Esparta. Of these 8 cases, 3 were infected in the community. 3 are Venezuelan citizens who arrived from Colombia. Again, imported cases are an important factor in people's infection. The other 2 cases are also from Venezuelan brothers and sisters who arrived returning to our homeland.
The Vice President highlighted that the number of patients recovered from COVID-19 is nearly half of the total confirmed cases.
On the status of cases, we have 422 cases. 48.6% are recovered cases. That gave us a figure of 205 recovered cases. 92 are in hospital, 96 are in comprehensive diagnostic centers, 19 are in private clinics, and the unfortunate figure of 10 deaths.
Argentina will extend negotiations over a $65 billion debt restructuring proposal until May 22nd, setting the stage for tense last-ditch talks as the South American nation faces races to avoid default. The new deadline, which comes after an initial cutoff last Friday, is without the support needed for a comprehensive deal. The offer will expire and on the same day, Argentina could default over $500 million interest payment. The government has been working to restructure unsustainable debts amidst the painful recession, skyrocketing inflation, and increasingly expensive borrowing costs, as concerns over a potential non-sovereign default have rattled investors and hit beyond bond prices. The talks so far have been complex, with 3 major creditors groups rejecting the initial proposal and pushing for improved terms. Argentine officials have said the country cannot afford to pay more than they are offering, though they are open to counter-proposals. In Brazil, the president Jair Bolsonaro has been heavily criticized for continuously breaking social quarantine, despite the thousands of cases of COVID-19 in the country, with many projections showing the nation is the future epicenter of the pandemic. Criticisms against President Bolsonaro were renewed after he was seen riding a jet ski on a lake in Brasilia, accompanied by some of his followers. Brazil has already surpassed 10,000 coronavirus deaths, as a figure that makes the country the sixth most affected by the pandemic and number one in Latin America. The number of people who have died from coronavirus pandemic in Brazil has surpassed 11,000. And now correspondent Brian Muir has these and more details. Let's hear the following report. Welcome, Brian.
Brazil reached the 11,000 mark in deaths from the deadly coronavirus pandemic over the weekend, propelling it into sixth place in the world's list of worst countries for the pandemic. As far-right President Jair Bolsonaro spent Saturday jet skiing and barbecuing and visiting fans without using any kind of protective equipment, continuing to tell people that they shouldn't worry about it, that it's just a little flu, the governors increased their lockdown measures. In the state of Maranhão, communist governor Flávio Dino issued a decree yesterday taking over the emergency rooms of all of the state's private hospitals. Meanwhile, São Paulo has worked hard to lower the occupancy rate of its ICU units. In the past week, ICU unit occupancy dropped from 90 to 83% in São Paulo, the capital, which is the hardest hit city in the state, and the statewide level is 67%. Now, São Paulo remains the epicenter of coronavirus transmission in Brazil. It has 3,700 deaths and over 40,000 cases documented so far. And the governor has announced that he's not going to ease any of the lockdown measures until the ICU hospital occupancy rates drop below 60% statewide level. That's definitely going to take a little more time because the death rates continue to increase. So for now, there is no sign that the lockdown measures implemented by the state governors are going to ease up despite far-right President Bolsonaro's anti-scientific conspiracy theory rhetoric.
Thank you, Brian. We continue talking about Brazil because meanwhile at least 22 homeless people have died while another 40 are suspected of being infected with COVID-19 in the city of Sao Paulo. The center of the city is crowded with homeless people sleeping in tents under bridges or in public squares, which makes them more vulnerable to the coronavirus. The number of homeless in the city of Sao Paulo has increased 53% in the last 4 years, topping 24,000 in 2019, according to City Hall data.
Our worst problem is the lack of housing. If we had a home, I would be there during the quarantine. I wouldn't be in the street. The coronavirus is just one more problem we face.
This situation we are facing now just highlights the big drama of inequality. There was a post on social media that exemplified this. We cannot say everybody's in the same boat. We can say we're in the same sea. Ones are in their yacht, others are swimming.
Uruguay's government says it will allow the crew of a virus-infected Australian cruise ship, Greg Mortimer, to disembark at a port in the capital Montevideo. A senior government official said the crew will be taken by buses to a specially equipped hotel to undergo quarantine. 2 people who are seriously ill have already been hospitalized. The crew remained on board long after the ship passengers were allowed to disembark and flow to their homes countries last month.
Not at all. Everyone is calm, very quiet. When you are a sailor, you prepare for a desertion, a fire, but never for a virus, right? But everyone is calm, and I think happy to be here.
Like this, we'll go for a first break. Remember, follow us on Twitter at Telesur English and on my account at Laura P. Telesur. We'll be right back with more news. The United States New York governor announced that schools will remain closed for the rest of the academic year despite pressure from President Donald Trump and corporations to reopen all businesses.
When we reopen, we're talking about a phased reopening. That's what everyone basically is doing. The question is, moderating that phasing and doing it intelligently, but starting with construction and manufacturing, retail, curbside pickup, agriculture, forestry, and fishing, then to phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, monitoring all along.
And as the United States remain the global epicenter of the coronavirus pandemic, more states keep reactivating their economies and lifting quarantine. More details on our correspondent Karina Cartagena's report. Welcome.
New York is preparing to reopen on Friday after nearly 2 months of confinement due to the COVID-19. But of the 10 regions that make up the state, only 3 are ready, according to the governor Andrew Cuomo. The reopening will be done in 4 phases, and in each one different business will open their doors, starting with the most essentials and those that represent less risk of infection. The second phase will allow the opening of real and financial business, while the third phase includes restaurants and hotels, and the last one includes schools and entertainment centers. Meanwhile, Massachusetts, the third state most affected by the COVID-19 pandemic in the United States, will begin the gradual opening next Monday. The number of infections across the country has already surpassed 1,340,000, and more than 80,600 people have died, according to Johns Hopkins University. The White House has also been affected by COVID-19 with 2 cases: Donald Trump's direct advisor and Mike Pence's press secretary. Health experts have warned that the reopening must be gradual to avoid the risk of a resurgence of COVID-19 infections.
Thank you, Karina. That was Karina Cartagena from New York. And the World Health Organization has numerous times warned countries against rushing to lift COVID-19 measures before the pandemic is under control.
The good news is that there has been a great deal of success in slowing the virus and ultimately saving lives. However, such strong measures have come at a cost, and we recognize the serious socioeconomic impact of the lockdowns, which have had a detrimental effect on many people's lives. Therefore, to protect lives and livelihoods, a slow, steady lifting of lockdowns is key to both stimulating economies while also keeping a vigilant eye on the virus so that control measures can be quickly implemented if an upswing in cases is identified.
Senegalese President Macky Sall announced that coronavirus restrictions adopted over the past few weeks will be eased from Tuesday onwards. Senegal has reported over 1,800 COVID-19 cases and 19 deaths.
I decided that the emergency state measures taken will be eased as follows. From Tuesday, May 12, 2020 onwards, curfew hours will be from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. instead of 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. Office hour will be from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Markets and other business, which previously could only open on certain days, will be open 6 days and closed on 1 day dedicated to cleaning.
And China has sent a team of 12 medical experts to Zimbabwe to help fight the coronavirus pandemic. The team arrived in the capital Harare on Sunday along with medical supplies, including ventilators, testing kits, face masks, and protective suits. Zimbabwean health officials thanked China for the gesture, saying it will boost the country's capacity to deal with the pandemic. And 2 people were killed with a grenade attack in Burundi's capital, Bujumbura. The attack, which took place on Sunday, just days ahead of a general election, was blamed on unidentified criminals who targeted a bar in a working-class district. According to witnesses, the bar belonged to a member of the youth wing of the ruling party, the National Council for the Defense of Democracy. They said the bar occasionally served as a meeting place for members of the Youth League, which in the past has been accused of engaging in political violence, including calling for the murder and rape of opposition supporters.
I got here and the incident was already over. I found injured people. We asked passing vehicles to take them to Doctors Without Borders. There were about 10 injured people. There were no deaths on the scene, only injuries and property damage, as you have seen.
And at top 8, the Democratic Republic of the Congo President Felix Tshisekedi has gone on trial for corruption. Vital Kamerhe, who is the presidential chief of staff who has been in custody since April 8th, is accused of embezzling funds for a government infrastructure program. He denies any wrongdoing, and his supporters who turn up for the hearing claim the charges are part of a political scheme to prevent him from contesting the 2023 presidential elections.
We have to go through this case, whether it's the file on the prefabricated houses or the pharmaceutical supply contract, from top to bottom. When you look at this file, Vital Kamerhe is innocent. There is no proof.
And the Malian National Assembly has elected Moussa Tibin as its new leader. He has declared winner after receiving 134 votes. He beat his closest rival Moussa Mara, who got less than 10 votes. He was previously served as the president of the Youth League of the Rally for Mali party, as he was also the first vice president of the outgoing National Assembly.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Moussa Tibin, having obtained 134 votes or an absolute majority, is therefore elected President of the National Assembly of Mali.
I thank the Almighty for the grace He has bestowed on me in this blessed month of Ramadan, through my election today as President of this venerable National Assembly of Mali.
We are back with our news. Iraq's parliament is demanding a time frame for the expulsion of U.S. troops from the country, and Sunday political factions asked the parliament to set a date for the definite departure of foreign troops in retaliation for the assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, as troops have remained in the country after the deployment of more than 5,000 soldiers at the invitation of Baghdad to fight extremist groups in 2014. Israeli authorities have demolished the home of a Palestinian man accused of taking part in a bomb attack that occupied West Bank. Soldiers stormed Kazan Shibili homes on Monday morning before tearing it down, leaving his family in the cold. Shibili is currently in custody, facing trial over allegations of being involved in the attack, which took place in an illegal Jewish settlement. Human rights organizations have frequently condemned Israel's policy of demolishing homes of Palestinian prisoners, describing it as a collective punishment that leaves thousands of people homeless.
Unfortunately, the world condemns our Palestinian resistance against this hateful Israeli occupation, as if the Palestinian people are different than other people, and as if they are people who have no right to life. This is my message to the whole world, and not just to Israel, and it is that our people have the right to resist and the right to life.
India has registered a record jump of 4,213 COVID-19 cases in 24 hours as the country prepares to transport thousands of stranded migrants back to their homes. This surge has pushed the total number of cases to more than 67,000, and the number of people who have died from the virus has risen to over 2,200. The government on Monday announced that train services are set to resume this Tuesday.
From the 12th of May, Indian Railways will begin operating passenger trains in a phased manner. These trains, special trains, will leave New Delhi railway station to 15 destinations.
Like this, we come to the end of this news brief. Of course, you can find this and much more other information on our website, telesterenglish.net, where you can read opinion articles, watch special interviews, and of course, find the latest number related to COVID-19 pandemic throughout the world, where you can read and update yourself about how the world is behaving with the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, this and much more other information that we produce especially for you. The invitation is being made for you. You continue with us, with Telesur, always together, connecting our global thoughts. Until next time, thank you for watching.